Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to day 3 of official Conspiracy Take the Crown previews. Today we have 11 cards to take a look at, and we actually have a lot of mythics today and some very relevant reprints too. So we got some good ones. I will say, as we go through these cards, I'm going to kind of gloss through the mechanics, because on Monday we spent a lot of time talking about the mechanics. Now, if you're not familiar with the mechanics yet in this set, I would recommend probably watching Monday's video first, and you may want to just check out the whole playlist. This is the 4th video. If you watch the whole thing, you'll see all of the cards that have been revealed up until this point. Now, we'll be back tomorrow with another video, and then on Friday, the full set's going to be revealed, so we'll begin our full set review, starting with the white cards, as well as some of the multicolor cards, and we'll work our way through the entire set, as we always do. Having said all of that, without any further delay, let's start looking at some of these new cards. We'll begin with Sanctum Prelate. 2 white and 1. This one's a human cleric, mythic rare, 2/2. As this enters the battlefield, choose a number. Non-creature spells, when converted mana cost equal to the chosen number, can't be cast. Now, this was a preview card that came from Channel Fireball. The article that revolved around this card was written by Louis Scott Vargas. It's a very short article, but he definitely hits on some interesting points. Obviously, you can compare this card a little bit to Chalice of the Void, which is very good. In fact, it's been restricted in Vintage. It's so good there. So this is a card that potentially could see some Vintage and or Legacy play. Now, if you're trying to utilize this in Vintage, maybe a Monastery Mentor deck, especially if it's primarily white, this may be able to fit in there. And Mentor decks are actually very popular right now in Vintage. They are doing very well in that meta. Also, Hate Bears, if it's primarily white, this could fit there. As far as Legacy goes, Death and Taxes probably makes the most sense. I would probably have to try it and play test it, see if it really gets absorbed well by that deck. But I feel like it does the things that deck wants to do, so I could see it there. As far as limited goes, this one's a little awkward if you draft it, because you don't sideboard and play a game 2 in Conspiracy draft games. If you did, then that would be different. You could just board it in and probably find some value out of it. But the fact that you're just sitting down and playing a multiplayer game where you're probably going to have a pretty decent curve, the game's most likely going to revolve around creatures more than anything. This card all of a sudden doesn't become that good. But beyond that, I think it's going to be great in Commander as well. So there's places to play this card for sure, even if it might be a little awkward in the actual limited game for Conspiracy. Next, we have a Japanese language preview card. Loosely translated, we think it's Confiscate Riches. 2 blue and 7, sorcery. And this one's a mythic as well. Council's Dilemma, starting with you. Each player votes time or money. For each player that voted time, take an extra turn. For each player that voted money, gain control of a permanent that player owns, and then exile this card. So first off, let me say this is an incredible Commander card. Now, this is a card that's more powerful, obviously, the more opponents you have. So it works better in multiplayer situations, especially early in the game before anyone goes out. This is just better. And yeah, you know, Commander, this is expensive, but you're going to be able to work this out relatively quick with some mana acceleration, some mana rocks, or what have you. And you'll be able to play this really, hopefully, before anyone goes out and get the most value out of it. It's going to be fine for you in Conspiracy Limited Draft as well, just because, yeah, you know what, you can't cast it probably as quick as, say, Commander, but it's still going to be good for you. Even if you're just down to just 1 or 2 other opponents, it's probably going to be worth it at that point in the game. It's just that good. It's a little too expensive probably for like some of the other Eternal formats like Vintage or Legacy. I mean, sure, you can Omniscience this out, but against 1 opponent, it's probably just not worth it. There's probably better things you could be doing, right? But really, really strong Commander card. Very exciting to see it for that format, if nothing else. Next, we have Keeper of the Keys, 2 blue and 3. This is a human rogue mutant, 4/4. This is a rare. When this enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you're the Monarch, creatures you control can't be blocked this turn. Now, for me, this is one of the more powerful cards that kind of plays into this. Not only do you get the Monarch counter, but it also gives you a nice ability attached to it. Because look at it this way. You're paying 5 for a 4/4. In blue, that's actually kind of impressive. Blue, typically 5 casting cost, maybe is like a 3/5 and not a 4/4. I really like the fact that this is a strong offensive as well as defensive creature for blue for 5. And unless something goes incredibly wrong, guess what? You're still drawing a card at the end of the turn on top of everything else. And the ability, whenever you have that Monarch token, which you have when you cast this thing, you can get in for some crazy damage if the situation presents itself. So I really like what this card's doing in that Conspiracy limited format. I think this could also be a very good cube card, and potentially I can see this one crossing over into Commander. I think it's good enough there. All right, here's our first reprint of the day, and it's Serum Visions. This is a big one. 1 blue, it's a sorcery, uncommon, draw a card, scry 2. So a little history here. This was originally printed in 5th Dawn as a common many years ago. This card is very big in Modern. It's a huge Modern card, and it was a $5-6 common. It has seen a couple reprints in promo form, but nothing in a wide release. And players have been really clamoring for this as a reprint for a long time. It's finally happened. So thank you, Wizards. Modern players really needed this. It's just, Modern's expensive enough, right? You don't need to be spending $5 on a common on top of everything else. Now, it is an uncommon this time around, but I think that's still fine. I think it's going to put enough copies out in the environment that it's going to bring the price down, hopefully to under $1, where it really should be. And it is a fantastic card if you've played with it. Now, having said all that, I do want to point out too that they kept the original art. I love the original art, the one from 5th Dawn, so that's really cool to see too. So great job with this card for a reprint selection. And yeah, if you've never played with it before, try it out. It's really good. It'll be good for you in Limited, and this fits into all different places. You can put this in your Commander deck. You can put this in a cube. I see this run actually quite a bit in cubes. Fantastic card all around. Burgeoning, we get ourselves another reprint. It's a green enchantment. This is another rare. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So last time around we got Exploration, which is similar in some ways. This time around we get Burgeoning. This actually arguably may be better than Exploration. I will say this was originally printed in Stronghold. It has never been reprinted. Now, this is actually a very big Commander card. As a matter of fact, if you want to pick up a Stronghold version of this, it'll run you about $25. So this is actually a huge reprint for Commander. Again, thank you, Wizards. You hit it out of the park with these last 2 reprints. This one's fantastic. And this is also the first time you can get this card in foil. That's awesome. So very exciting stuff. Finally available in foil. Finally, hopefully available at a reasonable price for Commander players. Great inclusion and fantastic card as well. Entourage of Trest, a green and 4 elf soldier 4/4. When this enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch, and this can block an additional creature each combat as long as you are the Monarch. So this is another one of those kind of protect the queen sort of cards where it's going to make it harder for your opponent to wrestle the crown away from you, but it's still a nice sized creature, 4/4 for 5, and again, as long as nothing weird happens, you'll be drawing a card at the end of your turn because you got the Monarch token. It's very economical, very good, and I've said this in my other videos, but I do feel like they're trying as much as they can to speed up gameplay in these multiplayer games, and that's why you're seeing just more aggressive cards that are costed a little more economically than normal, because in a multiplayer game, typically, sometimes they can drag on a little bit because everyone's afraid to make the first move, but they're really giving you some really offensive threats to encourage you to attack early and often. Alright, next we have another card that was a Japanese language spoiler. This is also a reprint. It's Wild Pair. 2 green and 4, enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, you may search your library for a creature card with the same total power and toughness and put it onto the battlefield. If you do, shuffle your library. Now, this is a card that was originally from Planar Chaos. It did see a reprint, oddly enough, in the Sliver Premium deck that came out many years ago now, and that deck was an all foil product, so you did get a foil copy in there. Not a super expensive card necessarily. You could probably find these for like $3-4 at most, probably even cheaper, honestly. Even the foils weren't that much, but you know what, it does have new art, and it's a very good Commander card. It's another card that's a lot of fun in cubes, so there's definitely a place for it. I'm glad to see it reprinted. Next we have Spy Kit, cost 2, artifact equipment, it's an uncommon. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, has all names of non-legendary creature cards in addition to its name. Equip 2. So first let me say that this was the preview card for Tulare Community College, the professor's card. If you've never watched his preview card videos before, check them out. They're incredible. He does an amazing job. They're always very funny, and this was no exception. And the card itself is amazing flavor-wise. I loved like the forged paperwork on the desk there. That's awesome. And really, where does this card fit? Well, in limited, it does have a place. It combos really well with some of the conspiracies we've already seen previewed. And I believe we've seen 3 different color conspiracies that were at the common slot that all let you choose a creature name, and then during the course of the game, if something happens to that creature, you can pay the color mana that corresponds with it and you get a benefit. For example, there's a black one that says if the creature you named dies, then you get a 2/2 zombie token if you pay a black. So this allows you to kind of play around with that and get more value out of those cards. So maybe you draft this early on, and then you draft some of these conspiracies at the common level that are in the colors you want to be in, and there you go, instant value. So other than that, I don't know what else this can really do for you. Some part of me feels like there's some crazy broken combo with this that I'm not thinking of. If anyone thinks of something like for Vintage or Legacy or even Commander that just seems inappropriate with this card, definitely put it in the comments below. I just feel like there's something that's everyone's missing that someone's going to figure out and be like, wow, when you play this with that, something really degenerate happens. But I just can't think of anything. So there you have it. A very, very interesting, flavorful card, if nothing else. Alright, now we have a Planeswalker. It's Daretti, Ingenious Iconoclast. A red, a black, and 1. Of course, this is a mythic. 3 loyalty. +1 is put a 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature token with Defender onto the battlefield. -1, you may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, destroy target artifact or creature. -6, choose target artifact card in a graveyard or artifact on the battlefield. Put 3 tokens or copies of it onto the battlefield. This card's actually pretty awesome. First off, let me say, it passes the test. It can defend itself. Not only can it make tokens as blockers, but then you can also sacrifice artifacts to destroy either other artifacts or creatures. Phenomenal. And if this ultimates, wow, this is a pretty awesome effect, because notice it's not just an artifact that you control. It's any artifact in any graveyard or on the battlefield. So it can be opponents' artifacts or stuff that they could have in their graveyard. You could potentially purposely put something in your graveyard that you want to use this effect on at some point. Just amazing stuff. I'm really impressed by this card. I think this will be just phenomenal and fun to play in a lot of different formats. This is a shoo-in in probably any cube. Like, this is an incredible cube card, as long as you have some sort of artifact theme going on somewhere, and most cubes do, I think. This will fit very well. Because think of it this way, you could be triplicating like artifact creatures, or you could just simply be doing like mana rocks. You're just going to find all different weird ways to get value out of this card. I love it. Fantastic in Commander. I don't know where it belongs in like Legacy or Vintage, but I feel like it's going to get there somewhere, just because especially like when you get into those formats with Vintage has like workshop decks and stuff. I don't know if with the color demands if it will work in a deck like that or not, but someone may figure it out. I don't know. But it's a great card, and I do think at some point we'll see it in those formats. But regardless, it's going to be fantastic in cubes, Commander, and really great in the Conspiracy format as well. This is one of my favorites that I've seen so far. Leovold, Emissary of Trest. This costs a black, a green, and a blue. Legendary Elf Advisor, 3/3. This is another mythic. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. So, okay. First off, let me say, only costs 3 and you get a 3/3. Now, granted, it is 3 different colors. That's sometimes hard to pull off. But this is a huge effect. Cutting off card draw basically from all your opponents other than their first card of the turn, that's a pretty big deal. Now, you do have to remember it can't draw more than 1 card each turn, so it does slow them down in most cases, but if they have an instant that allows them to draw a card, then they're still going to get their card draw ability. It doesn't completely shut it off, but it does a really good job of shutting it off. So, having said that, where does this fit in? Now, if you play this in Commander, you might get beat down, because I don't know. I think this is a huge effect, because a lot of Commander decks just want to draw into their threats early and just really go off with their combos and stuff, and this really slows them down from doing it, and you might not be the favorite person on the battlefield when you play this card. But it's incredibly strong. Great cube card as well, and yeah, this will do work for you as long as you can afford to cast it in the limited environment in Conspiracy as well. Now, we haven't seen what color fixing really looks like yet. We're going to see 1 card in just a moment, but I'm assuming we're going to see more as we go along too. As far as, say, Vintage or Legacy goes, Again, I feel like this is powerful enough. You'd have to have a deck that's comfortable casting something like this and filling a slot in their deck with it. I mean, it's still a good beater. 3/3 for 3 is still very, very strong on that front. So I feel like, again, this is a card that potentially could maybe see some legacy play at some point down the road. It is very powerful against certain decks, so maybe it is more of a sideboard card, but against certain matchups, this can be very strong. Alright, our last card of the day is Exotic Orchard. This one's a reprint. It's a land, it's rare. Tap to add to your mana pool 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. So this was originally printed in Conflux. It saw a reprint in Planechase 2012. Now, financially, this isn't a huge card. You can pick these up really for just a couple dollars. I think even a foil is only like $3, $4, something like that in most cases. Now, it never really grabs hold of like legacy or anything like that, just because it's a little too inconsistent when it comes to the actual color production. But you know what? This is a lot better in multiplayer games. So this will be great for you in your conspiracy draft format. This is going to be good in Commander as well. Actually, a very good Commander card. I've seen a lot of folks play this in Commander. And you know, for the most part, especially early game before anyone goes out, odds are you're going to be able to get the color you want out of this. And we have been seeing some cards that cost 3 colors to cast in previews over the last couple days. So this is a card that's going to help you get there. I'm sure we're going to see more mana fixing over the course of the next 2 days. This isn't going to be the only thing in the set, but it's a rare. You're not always going to get it, but when it comes up, it'll probably help you along with your color selection. Alright, having said that, those are the cards for today. So we are getting there. Tomorrow we'll be back with one more preview video with all the cards that are previewed in the next 24 hours. And then Friday, we're going to be looking at the whole set, starting with all the white cards. So I'll definitely see you then. As always, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality content for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't yet had a chance to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.